Hello, I'm Doug, and this is the Taste and Sensibility channel. And we are about to look at day 20 of the World Whisky Advent Calendar from Drinks by the Dram. This is the World Whisky Calendar for 2018, and we're down to the last 5 samples. I guess I was a little alarmed or perturbed when I ordered something other than what I ordered last year, which had lots of bourbons, had lots of Scotch whiskies, plus quite a few others from all over the world. So when I saw a World Whisky Calendar, I thought, that's the one I got last year, but it wasn't. But anyway, I think I've got a broader view of World Whisky from this one than I did from the one I had last year. And it's been really educational, they've been really good. And I will probably seek out 3 or 4 of these to get a bottle on my shelf. But I've been tasting them blind, nosing and tasting and seeing what I can tell about them and if they fit some sort of profile that I already know. And usually something fits a little bit here and there, and sometimes I can guess what they are, but mostly they have been fooling me and teaching me new stuff. So we're going into day 20. I'm going to, wow, this one's a little slippery. Pull it out without looking at the label and pour it into a glass. Oh. I'm not gonna cheat on the smell any. Every time I say it smells like bourbon, it's not. Go through my usual series of steps. It's hard to say much about it from the nose. Maybe higher ABV than most, but not a lot of notes jumping out. Might just be corn or grain. Can't tell much about the oak or barrel influence. And can't tell much about the spirit. It's got ethanol in it. That's about all I can say for sure. It might be a grain, or it might be much more, well, I don't want to say interesting. I like some grain whiskeys. But that's my conclusion. Not much to go on from the nose. So a good hefty sip. Oh, it's got that sweet, bright, brittle character that I associate with the grain whiskey. So I've heard corn in Scotland and Ireland and the UK. I've heard wheat. I've heard unmalted barley. I've heard different things that they make their grain whiskey out of. It might depend on whatever is cheap that season, that decade, that era. And I think it's well constructed. It's got a higher ABV, like 43, 46. I think it's grain, and I can't tell that much about the oak or the casking. They typically use older barrels, I think, and don't use their best barrels to put away grain whiskey for aging. So I get the impression that the barrels used don't impart much of their own flavor. They just don't interfere or get in the way of the grain. There's a bit of a malt characteristic, but I don't really want to go out on a limb and say it's a malt or a blend with a majority of malt, and I don't think you'd want to blend it the other way. So I like the flavor. Grain whiskeys tend to be thin to me. All the Scotch whiskey, Scotch grain whiskey that I've had, it's tended to be a little thin, a little brittle. There's a certain kind of sweetness that, well, it varies. Some are good and some are not so good. But they tend to be thin if you're used to malts or American bourbons. So I think that's the story I'm going to have here. Slight chance it's a blend, a Scotch blend, Scotch type blend with malt and grain whiskey. It's been well treated by the casking. ABV at 46% probably. And that's what I'm picking up. And almost all from the palate. I didn't smell any of that stuff. So that's my story, that's my profile. I'll add a little water and see what changes. I don't remember having big changes in the grain whiskeys before on the additional water, but I think most of my experiences have been more to the forgettable side. I've had a couple of older grain whiskeys that are really good. I've had a couple of the Compass Box blends like Hedonism, which are really good blends of grain whiskeys. They're high quality and have their interesting points. Lots of grains are a little disappointing if you're used to other things. You'd have to develop a taste for it and learn what the nuances are. I can't tell that the nose has changed because there wasn't much there before. I can tell the ABV went down. Most of the interest went away. The things I was liking about what I was tasting before went away with just a little bit of additional water. If it was 46 before, now it's 42 or 43. And boom, flavor, what little flavor there was, as thin as it was, as light as it was, a lot of that's gone. So, note to self, don't add water to this one. Okay, I think I've done about all the damage I can do describing that. Now we're going to look and see what it is. And see. Yes, there's a red face is going to contrast strongly with this shirt and background. Bain's, which I know is South African. Okay, that's just their normal logo. Bain's single grain whiskey, 40% by volume. Bingo, got one. I think I had a Bain's last year in this collection. So it's high quality, it's good, but don't add water to it, and definitely put that in your grain whiskey collection. So this whiskey business is so complicated. It's just so easy to be wrong about what you're tasting and smelling, and it's all so subjective. Everyone's got their favorites and things that they like or dislike, but it is so different from one person to the next. So I hope I'm not sounding snobby about the things that I don't like, but every person's journey is different, and we have only 4 more of these to go. So if you like what you're seeing here, give that a thumbs up down below, like this video or dislike it, and subscribe to the channel. I am looking for subscribers and viewers to give me a little momentum here. And if you click that bell, you'll get notification every time a new video is posted, which will only be 4 more times for this series. After that, I will be posting on Mondays and Thursdays. The Thursday after Christmas, we'll start in with a series on varietal honeys, which is connected to my whiskey story, oddly enough. But we'll get into that when we do those videos. But the world of varietal honey is surprisingly complex and interesting and full of flavors you never guessed. I do a little wavy thing at the end, don't I? So, Merry Christmas, and that's all for now.